Hey guys, welcome back to the Fool Show. Of course, I am Foolish Phil. Michigan just wrapped up their 30-27 victory over the Nebraska Cornhuskers in Lincoln, Nebraska. That game gave Michigan, I believe, their sixth straight Big Ten opening victory, and coincidentally gave Nebraska their sixth straight Big Ten opening loss. This was a highly competitive game, but it's kind of misleading the score. Don't get me wrong, Michigan had plays and Nebraska had plays, but from my perspective as a Michigan fan, kudos to Nebraska for taking advantage of them, but Michigan was so sloppy in this game that they almost gave it away. It was terrible, the mistakes Michigan made. And so I'm just going to give a few thoughts on that. I'm trying not to be too negative, so I'll give the negatives first, and then I'll go to the positives at the end. Okay? First off, it was a big story, and it's totally true. Michigan should have called a timeout at the end of the first half. They let Nebraska get the last play, and obviously got the Hail Mary because it was defended poorly by Michigan. Michigan could have called a timeout at like 54 seconds to go in the half. Didn't. Michigan could have called a timeout at 23 seconds to go in the half. Didn't. So they let Nebraska get the last play of the game without any danger to them whatsoever, right? And they scored. Kudos to them. Michigan went to half with 3 timeouts. Good thing they did, because, they really carry over to the second half. Oh, no, they don't. Again, it was stupid. It's just mentality focus. You're playing to not win. You're playing to get to half tie. Oh, you're actually up, 17-10 at that point. You're not playing to win. So that's how those things happen. If you're playing to win, you don't have that happen. But there's the first one. Second one, though, I think Raiola's throw up the seam to the wide receiver, total bust in the coverage. I would love to know in the media room, or the film study room, what was up with that, because they had the outside cornerback try to slant over and cover the inside cornerback. That makes absolutely no sense. It was the dumbest. If that's actually how they're supposed to rotate or hand that off, it's completely stupid. So, again, is that bad coaching? Partially, yes. Because the players don't know the plays. So either it's bad coaching, or because the players aren't doing the plays, you're calling plays they don't know how to do well, or it's just dumb call to begin with. I don't know if I've ever seen outside cornerback try to cover someone in the slot like that. So maybe it was just bad play by the players, but again, that goes back to coaching. You're having them do things they can't do. Now, there's some of the coaching stuff. Some of the players also really tried to screw up this game for Michigan. You had several times where Nebraska player number 15, their linebacker, comes up and makes an awesome play. Why? Well, Michigan, going back to the coaching, I guess, here one more time, offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey's trying to have the guard come over, pull, and block a guy on the defensive end spot. And you know what? Number 15 is pretty fast for Nebraska. He just swoops in there. The pulling guard can't get there. Easy, big play, blow up. And you had elsewhere where Michigan has a chance for a big play if they can get a screen and the one guy just doesn't block and it's a tackle instead of a first down 20, 25-yard gain. Those mistakes really hurt. Again, we had the missed sack because the guy runs at him and just flies himself off Raiola and he hits like a nice 20-yard pass. The most boneheaded play to me, though, I mean, I can understand that in the game, you make tackles, you miss tackles. It happens. But, man, I don't understand it. What? I saw Michigan doing the taunting, like mocking Nebraska, like giving the signal for a catch inbounds. And somehow that's taunting Nebraska that they didn't catch the ball or it's not a first down. I don't know how this is taunting them that it's not a first down. But I saw them do it, I think, 2 times earlier in the game. And in the fourth quarter, the end of the third quarter, Michigan gets 2 great plays, a 3-and-out. It's like going to be 4th and 17, and number 6, Hillman, I think. Sorry if I get that wrong. Goes off and he's taunting the bench. He had nothing to do with the play. He didn't make the hit or anything. And he's taunting the bench, and he gets flagged for it. He gives them an automatic first down. So that's a turnover. It should have been Michigan ball. Instead, they get a first down. What happens? They extend that drive 5 more minutes and get a field goal out of that. So that's, look at that, compound the problem. 1, should have had Michigan ball. 2, time of possession, your defense is out there on the field for 5 more minutes because your guy had to taunt them. Just stupid. Now, I don't understand why Biff Poggi did not pull him off the field. Growing up, watching Michigan old school, I know. When you made a dumb mental error like that, you were pulled off the sideline. To the sideline, I should say. But he stayed out there, and, I don't understand why he didn't get penalized for that. I guess it was deemed it was a big enough series he had to stay on the field. But 5 minutes of playing time, and they get 3 points out of it. So just a silly, silly, silly mistake, and just unacceptable. And what does that say about Michigan? I know Sharon Moore's not here. I'm sure he'll address it in this week's program, practices and all that. You just gave away a possession. It just screams to me lack of coaching, lack of understanding, lack of fundamentals, and that just reflects back on Sharon Moore. This is what it is. And when your players are doing that, are there any consequences for that? He still gets to play. You have the coaches there screw up the timeouts. It's just not looking smooth. Okay. Negatives aside, let's talk about some positives. Obviously, Michigan won on the road. I know the stats won't be epic or anything. Bryce Underwood, 12 of 22 for 105 yards, I think it was. No touchdowns. Michigan just ran off some big chunks there, and that gets to Haynes, again, busts another 75-yard run. He has 149 yards on 17 carries. We had another one, a 54-yarder, and then Underwood himself took a 37-yarder. Michigan should have won this game by double digits, it seems. But they just kept making those mistakes that let Nebraska score, kudos to Nebraska, and let them stay in the game. The offense looked good. There's more to be done on the passing game. And I appreciate they were passing more on first down. I think that really did help set up the run later in the game. I also got to give compliments to the defense overall. I know they gave up 27 points, if you will. I know the last touchdown there was just in scramble time. My brother was telling me that even the radio people, Michigan radio call, was saying that most of the starters on defense were on the sideline that last possession. I have not rewatched to see if that's true. But suddenly the defense, which was getting pressure all over Raiola, was getting nothing. So perhaps that is true. But the defense overall had 7 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. I mean, excellent. They got 1 interception. They could have had another one along the way if a bounce goes the right way. They had good pressure on Raiola all game. And he got his yards. It looks great. But really, they kind of limited Nebraska relatively well. Hail Mary, hey, they hit it. Kudos. They got that last touchdown drive. Kudos. But if you take those things away, the defense stats look a lot better. But I know those overall are in the game, so you can't exactly take them away. They hold Nebraska to 43 yards rushing, with the sacks not included, 92 yards. Again, very effective overall. We're just looking for Wink to mold this defense. If you remember last year, the defense just kind of took a while to come into form. And it really was limited by the lack of offense because the defense had to play a ton and they got worn out, especially like road games last year, like at Washington, I believe it was, like where they just were just left out to dry, and then eventually they just break. They had that at Indiana and other things. So you're hopeful that Michigan can have a good enough offense this year with Bryce Underwood and Haynes leading the charge of offense that they won't leave the defense out to dry. Partially today, it was skewed. The time of possession is skewed first because Michigan hit long touchdown runs, a 75-yarder, a 54-yarder on the second play of a series. The first play of the series, a 37-yard run by Underwood. It's like, okay, you didn't have time of possession, but you scored fast. So, I mean, time of possession is important. Luckily, it wasn't like in the heat of Tampa Bay or something like that, So it didn't seem to really drain the defense so much, so that's a positive. To me, this game it reminded me of Michigan at Nebraska, I think 2021. Aiden Hutchinson was still on the team. And that was a game Michigan went to Nebraska at night and came out with a victory. And I just remember the scene where Hutchinson is like celebrating with Coach Harbaugh on the sideline and like maybe ruffled up his hair. They were all pumped up for the win. It kind of signified a turn in the program that Michigan could go on the road at night into a hostile environment and get a victory. I know this wasn't at night, but it just reminded me of that. And maybe you see that here where Bryce Underwood didn't play epic, but he didn't have to. He made plays. There's more to be fixed, no doubt. There's more to work on. The sad stat, which they mentioned in the game, is now 23 straight games without a wide receiver having 100 yards in Michigan football games. That's not good. Hopefully, Michigan will break that soon. But for right now, Michigan gets to rest up. They're going to enjoy their first bye week coming up next week. And they'll rest up and practice and get ready. And hopefully, in the words of Git and Coach Harbaugh, get better, right? A get better week. I know I rambled on a little bit. Sorry for that. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much. If you have any thoughts, put them in the box below. I'll try to respond as I'm able to. As always, appreciate it. And go blue!